All right, our latest big conversation here on the counterattack, a Team USA Olympian many times over, capping up with Pro Reco this season. Max Irving is here. Max, how are you?
Doing well, doing well. Thank you for having me, Greg.
Of course, always good to catch up with you. We'll talk about the Pro Reco season in a minute and you joining that club and how that's going. But talking here this week on the counterattack with Team USA action about to get into full swing. World Cup, the process to qualify for the finals in Sydney getting underway in Greece. I know you guys are going to start in Montenegro and then move to Greece to take part in that competition. Tell me about your excitement first. We'll talk roster in a minute, but just your excitement to be back with Team USA with some important games coming up.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really great opportunity for us to come together as a team and establish ourselves first and foremost internally, what we kind of want our standards to be for the culture, what we want our identity to be in the water. And then, as you mentioned, we kind of have some newer guys on the team. We've a different complexion, different dynamic, different group here, obviously with every quad. Most of the times there's going to be a new squad. So I think for us, really establishing who we are is going to be really, really important. And I think this tournament, with some of these European teams that we're going to be playing against, we're going to immediately have a really good benchmark for where we're at.
Yeah, the roster coming out this week from Coach Adovicic, and as Max alluded to, a lot of names guys coming back, of course, part of not just Paris, but Tokyo. So a lot of Olympians in the mix. Dodd brothers, Max, of course, Hannes, the list goes on. But then some younger guys, right? We talked about a guy like Don Brown, who got an opportunity in Singapore last summer. Jet Taylor, high schooler out of the San Diego area, making his way up. Bodie Brinkema, who's done some great things at the junior level. What's it like? You were the young guy once. What's it like for those guys to try to get in where they fit in here when they get a chance with the senior team? What advice, maybe some thoughts you could share with them?
Yeah, the biggest things that I can tell for these guys, first of all, they're super talented. They've got a really good eye for the game there. Immediately, they're very selfless, very humble. So integrating them into the group isn't going to be an issue at all. And if anything, they're going to give us a lot of energy. They're going to motivate the group as a whole. And that's really, really what we're looking for. We want to be a selfless group, a group that's super motivated to go out there and compete every day, a team that's going to sacrifice from the first guy to the last guy. Doesn't matter who's out there, doesn't matter what role you're in. And the most important thing is going to be those three letters on the front of our cap, Team USA. So we recognize how much of an honor it is to play for Team USA, and how much of a privilege it is. So I think right now, my encouragement and kind of what I can do for these guys, it just let them know that no one player is more important than the team, and just embodying and embracing that mentality that we're going to do whatever it takes for Team USA to win. And then when you kind of have that a mental approach to it, it's really, really liberating, because you don't necessarily think about, okay, well, what about my mistakes, my responsibilities, that things might not have gone my way, my missed shots. No, it's all about the team. If you make a mistake, I'm covering for you. And then when it's your time to go up there and shoot or do something or make a positive impact for the team, whatever you can do to contribute, just give 100%, and then we'll go from there.
Talking with Max Irving here from Team USA. They'll have a exhibition with Montenegro coming up on Friday, but then no easy schedule here at this Division I competition. Croatia, Italy, Spain, right out of the gate. When you see that schedule, what do you make of going up against some of the top teams here internationally?
Yeah, I think that's great. There's definitely two ways to think about it. You can be thinking about, oh my gosh, we're going against some of these top teams in Europe, or we can just have a focus upon ourselves. And I think the biggest thing for our team, even with this exhibition game against Montenegro before the tournament starts, our goal is going to be to make sure that we're getting better every moment that we're together, every game, every quarter, every minute. So at the end of the tournament, we're so much more united as a team. And then we've got a really, really strong foundation for where we can grow and where we can move forward.
Everyone is already excited about LA 28, right? There's a long way to go for that. Still a couple of years. The benefit this time around, Team USA is already in, so you're not sweating out that qualification piece. But what that team will look like is still very much work in progress. You've done this Olympic quadrennial thing a couple of times now. And I think it's challenging to explain to maybe the average sports fan that follows college sports. We're in the middle of March Madness right now, or the NFL, where your roster's kind of set for your season, and then you kind of know what's happening. You're even living it now with Pro Record, right? You know your team for the season. How do you describe the journey to an Olympic roster? Like, you're right in the middle of a quad right now. What's that process like? It almost feels like a crock pot or a slow cooker, right? You kind of put all the materials in, and it's going to take some time before you get to kind of the finished product. What does it feel like for you to be in the middle of this, building towards this goal, but still kind of having these mileposts like a World Cup along the way?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing when you have such a big goal or such a big objective that you're working towards, like the LA 28 games for us, is to really break it down and try to take it 1 year at a time, and then understand that the most important thing for me individually, and then for every single player on the team, is going to be making sure that we're contributing and helping Team USA get better. It's super easy to start to get into a game where you're counting numbers or you're comparing yourself to the guy to your left and to your right. And then you kind of get in a position where you obviously are competing against people to make roster spots, but you don't want to do anything that's going to be a detriment to the team, whether that potentially could get you in a leg up, maybe if that might be being a bit more selfish in the water. I think if we can have an identity as a group and have a culture that it's not only the 13 players that are going to make the Olympic roster that are going to help the team be successful, but it's going to be all 26 players who are committed to the training group, who are committed to Team USA, who are ultimately going to help the team be successful. I mean, you look at guys like a Quinn Woodhead who didn't make this past roster, and there's so many guys you can go down the list, but these are the guys who do all the work, who are putting all the energy, effort. Tyler Abramson as well, and who ultimately don't make the final roster. But these guys are such important and integral pieces of the culture and pushing the Team USA forward, that when you really take a step back about it, no matter where you line up, ultimately making the roster or not, at the end of the day, you can be really proud of everything that you put in and how you help the group at the end of the day.
Yeah, it is so tough to make those choices. How do you get to that final 13? And you're right, there's a long list of guys, right, that have played a critical role that unfortunately there can only be so many that go. Do you have a sense what has set you apart? What has allowed you, if you think of the things you've worked hard at over the last 7 or 8 years, that has allowed you to take that next step forward to be someone that was in the final 13?
Yeah, I just think with me personally, with my personal growth and kind of my water polo journey, from the time I've been at UCLA and then beyond, playing professionally and then Olympics, 3 things really stick out to me. One is my love for the game. Like, I love playing water polo, even, at 30 years old now. Every single time I go to training and jump into the pool, I still have joy and I still have enthusiasm. So that allows me to continue to want to invest my time. And then the time I am investing kind of leads to my second point, is trying to improve on a daily basis, making those marginal gains, being committed, being intentional in training. Because, I mean, if you look at a guy like myself who's been playing water polo for the past 20 years, and even younger athletes, I tell this to as well, if you're playing club water polo, if you're playing in high school, if you're doing swim team, you're in the water for enough time where you can make really big steps and make leaps and bounds with your personal improvement. But the difference between a good player and a great player and a great player and an elite player are going to be those players that are doing the small things on a daily basis and enjoying doing those things. And then finally, just like support system, I feel like on every all the teams I've been on, I've had really amazing coaches. And then even outside the water, now with my wife and then with my family, just being able to have a foundation outside of the water, so you don't feel like you have to take all these things that could be weighing on you personally, whether that might be making a roster, and understanding ultimately that it's going to be a journey. Okay. I wasn't, when I first went, when I was a freshman at Long Beach Wilson, I didn't make the varsity team as a freshman. I was on JV, but even that was like an amazing step for me. When I was a freshman at UCLA, I didn't play right away. I redshirted my first year. And then even more so with some of these accolades, like I was never a Catino nominee, never obviously won a Catino award, but it's like those things are all external. Those are all results. The thing for me that's most important is I loved playing water polo every day. I was committed to getting better and then just enjoying it, taking things step by step, and then really focusing on the process.
Remind me, that first title at UCLA 2014, did you dress for that final?
So I was on the roster for like the majority of the year and then didn't end up suiting up for that last final game. We were in a group of about 16 or 17. So then, I was probably like the last guy out. I think Jack Grover and Alex Rosa, they suited up for that one, and Matt Farmer as well. All these guys who had been putting in work, but it was just so close. And, with making teams, with making rosters, you'll really find out that these margins are so slim that are going to be the difference between you making something and not making something. And then in that off season leading up to the next year in 2015, where I was suited up and where we did win another national championship, it took for me to almost have like a complete 180 with just my focus, with my approach and understanding if I want to do this, if I want to be able to make an impact and to contribute and to be the best version of myself, that it's going to take hard work every single day. And then ultimately enjoying that, having fun with it and embracing that challenge.
I'm so glad you told that story, and I knew that answer, but I teed you up to say it anyway, because I think it's so impressive to say out loud. Your story is one of just working harder, like of it just not happening, and then you deciding I'm just going to work harder to make it happen. I think it's a short list of people that have accomplished what you've accomplished, but at the start they didn't play their freshman year. They didn't even dress for the championship in their redshirt freshman year. You're now a two-time Olympian, you're a bronze medalist, and you play for what some would consider to be the greatest club that ever existed. And you hit on this a bit, but when the game told you weren't good enough, you decided, what, I'm just going to find a way through?
Yeah. So of course, I've worked hard and I can't all put that up to all my like work ethic, and, things obviously went right for me when they needed to go right at some points. And like, I've been very blessed to be in the situation and with some of the teams that I've played in. But for me personally, I think, whether it was club water polo, whether it was swimming when I was in high school, I always wanted to put myself in an environment with players that were better than me, that was going to cause me to grow. Okay. So whether that might be going to Long Beach Wilson, versus going to like my home school that was like closer to my house, whether that might have been playing at UCLA, where I didn't necessarily know if I was going to get playing time when I was first being recruited, or going to a smaller school. I was always up for the challenge. And then for me, after I graduated from UCLA, for me, I knew that if I wanted to have an opportunity to play on the national team and to maybe even be able to make an Olympic roster, that the only route for me was going to be if I was going to commit to it 100% and go play in Europe, because I knew that would give me an opportunity to play games from September to May for the majority of the year, and then play national team after that, and just put myself in an environment, like I said, with better players, and iron sharpens iron. And then obviously not being afraid to fail. I think that's something that we see with sports nowadays. Like the biggest thing, and if I give a lot of encouragement to younger athletes, is don't be afraid to fail. Like failure is feedback, and just taking that step of faith and being courageous in a lot of these situations where it might be scary to go out for an ODP. It might be intimidating to do swim team if you're just a water polo player, but you need to get faster. All these things are going to give you confidence, and they're going to challenge you, and then ultimately shape you to grow and to become a better player and then a better person.
So, since we're kind of digging into this a bit, and I think it's a fascinating conversation, and we always try to offer stuff that might be of help to a player on the come up. As you're recounting your process through UCLA and beyond, you have no lack of work hard mentality, right? I have to put the time in. Did you have an imposter syndrome thing, or I don't belong here thing at all? I'm curious, right? After you don't make some things and then you start making them, do you deal with that at all? Or are you just like, this is the product of what I worked hard for? How'd you process starting to achieve the things you wanted to achieve when it came to making teams?
Yeah, I think this is something that it's a skill, and it's also something that needs to be trained every day. I think oftentimes we train physically, we train mentally to a degree as well. But, these are things that you can train, like aggressiveness, assertiveness, confidence, courage. These are also things that you can train and work on yourself with at practice. So I think for me, it was understanding that by taking the steps, by putting myself in situations where I was going to be uncomfortable, and then not even giving myself the opportunity to fail. And if I did fail, okay, that's fine. I knew that I could go back, I could analyze what went wrong, speak with my coaches, learn from the players around me, and then go back and then try my best the next day. And then if I was able to continue to do that over a period of time, more often than not, I found myself being successful. But then at the end of the day, what we're going to define success as is, there's a wooden quote that success is a peace of mind, just knowing that you've given 100% of everything that you can do and not having any regrets at the end of the situation. So for me, it worked out that I was able to continue to play from high school to college and then to abroad to national team and beyond. But let's say if things didn't go my way and I had to stop, didn't even make my first Olympic roster, then I really would have felt like, okay, well, it didn't go my way. I wasn't the Lord's path or His plan for me, but I did everything that was possible that I could have done. I've committed myself to it, and I have peace with that.
Now playing for Pro Reco, coming off of a great run with Team USA, what has it been like to join? I always try to equate it for people that maybe aren't as familiar in the water polo world, but talking about the Yankees or the Green Bay Packers, right? This is the team that has won all the things, and they're not afraid to try to go and assemble the best talent they can find. What was it like to join that team, and how have you found your role on that squad, and same, different for how you operate for Team USA?
Yeah, it's been super refreshing, I would say, joining a team like Pro Reco with, beyond a shadow of a doubt, the best players in the world. Because with some of our scrimmages, that we're having like on a Wednesday or a Friday night, these are games like pretty much that could be equivalent to like an Olympic quarterfinal, just like the attitude, just the effort, just the grit, and how bad everyone wants to win. We're really and truly doing everything in our power. So it's been really awesome, really refreshing, because something that I've really taken away from this experience with Pro Reco is understanding that the most important thing is that the team wins. When you look at our team Pro Reco, you've got 16 to 18 players who could go on potentially, or for the most part, any other team in the world and be the best player on that team. But there's something so special about just the selflessness and the humility that comes from a group of talented players like this, of alpha males that are so committed to just the team's success and establishing a culture and an identity that not one player is more important than the team. And that at the end of the day, when we lift up the trophy, when we lift up the cup, like we're all going to celebrate together. So it's been really, really rewarding. Also been super challenging, but I'm really, really grateful for this opportunity.
And you've also played an important role. Pro Reco was kind of cruising along there for a number of years, change in leadership and questions about their future. And you've been part of the group that has helped stabilize this unit, right? This was a club that was a regular Champions League participant, was kind of out of that for a moment. Give us an update now of how this season has gone from your perspective. And we're talking here end of March, early April, what you're excited about when you get back to club play to finish out the year.
Yeah, things have been going well for us so far. Obviously, like you've kind of mentioned, we are a bit of a newer team. We've got 4 new foreign players this year. I'm one of 4 new foreign players. Also, we've got some new Italian guys as well, but we still have a core of a group that was here last year who's really done a good job of kind of establishing with leadership what the standards are for this team. So in the Champions League, we've won all the games that we've played so far. Now we're still at the quarterfinals of the final 8. So at this point, every team that we're playing against, they've qualified to be here. They're fighting for a position in the final 4, and you've got to give a lot of respect to every single team that's made it to this level. So we're really and truly just taking things like one step at a time. We know that on the other side, there's really great teams with Olympiacos, with Ferencváros, Brescia, and then Novi Beograd as well. But then even on our side, we've got FTC, we've got Hanover, and then Mulatto. So no matter how you slice it, these teams that you're playing against, so these are the best teams in Europe. And if you're not focused and if you're not concentrated in playing at your best, then you can lose the game at any moment.
So exciting times for Recco when you return after this week and a half or so with Team USA World Cup early round coming up here in Greece next week. It's a talking point a lot that Team USA athletes that play in Europe greatly benefit by that experience, and they bring it back to Team USA. As a fan, I get it from my perspective of you're playing with the best, you're playing nonstop, you're playing high level competition. For you though, Max, what does it do for you? How does that translate? How have you gotten to be a better player? Can you trace a line from I spent all this time in Europe to now I'm an Olympic bronze medalist?
Yeah, I think initially when you look at it, just the holistic approach that when you're playing water polo professionally from September to May, and then as soon as your season ends in late May, early June, if you have like a 10-day break and you immediately go with national team, when you're playing water polo for 11 months out of the year and you're playing at a high level, naturally you're going to grow, you're going to get better. It's whatever you do most, you're going to do best. So playing in Europe has really helped me. And then obviously understanding that while the NCAA is great, and I think National League is doing a really, really amazing job providing opportunities for athletes in the US, and then for some of our domestic athletes, some of the guys who are in college, when you're going to be competing in a world championships, when you're going to be competing at an Olympic Games or even a World Cup, and you're in that quarterfinal game, you're going to be competing against most likely a European team. So to be able to be in Europe and just to really kind of see where the level of competition is with some of these other guys who are playing in Italy, who are playing in Croatia, who are playing in Serbia, who are playing in Hungary, and see kind of how you stack up and see where you need to be and where our team needs to be in order for us to be successful. I think that's super, super important, because then you don't have so much of this question mark of, okay, well, if I'm only playing in the NCAA and if I'm stateside for the majority of the time, now when I go to play this quarterfinal game against this team, let's say Croatia, I know they're a great team, but how much do you really know? How familiar are you with these guys? Do you know their tendencies? Do you know what like their strength is? Have you felt their strength? Have you swam back and forth with them? So it just makes it so much more tangible when you're in Europe competing against these guys on a daily basis to really see where you stack up. And then ultimately you can bring that back to Team USA, to the national team, be like, hey guys, this is kind of where they're at. This is where we're going to need to be. And then as a collective, as a group, you can push yourselves that much further because you have the data, you know where you ultimately need to be at in order to be successful and ultimately have a chance to win a medal.
I'm curious for your perspective. We're talking about Max Irving here, Team USA and Pro Recco. It seems like over the last couple of years, just watching you play, that the mix of the elite Team USA games, the elite club play, your confidence on the offensive end has just only grown. I mean, you've had some ridiculous offensive games in Europe, multi-goal games over and over, scoring tallies that are just through the roof. How would you describe the way you're feeling offensively and your confidence shooting the ball right now?
Yeah, I feel good. I'm definitely confident. I think that one of the biggest things for me personally, I think that playing defense is really where I get a lot of my confidence, because when you play defense, when you're playing defense at a high level, and when you see that you can stack up and you can compete and you just earn that confidence, which, because on defense, you really have to earn it, then that's going to give you just kind of like that serenity, and you're just going to have a much clearer mental state to go into the attack and then just think, okay, perfect. I've done my job on defense. I'm doing what the team needs me to do. The coach has trusted in me. The guys have trusted in me. Now when I'm in the attack, I can play free. I can play aggressive, and I can play engaged with confidence. And then of course, like I've been putting in all this, we've been putting in trainings for years, then you can allow your qualities to kind of shine through. Then of course, water polo is a game like hockey, like soccer. You really have to keep things in perspective. There's games where I'll have opportunities to score 3, 4 goals. There'll be games where I can just have an opportunity to score 1 or 2 goals. And then in those games where I have an opportunity to score 1 or 2, the goalkeeper can make an amazing save. So I think it's super important just to have a clear mind, a clear perspective when you're approaching the goal, and just understanding that one day can be great, the next day can not be so great, but just understanding it's all about the approach, just the presence. Can I give 100% to this shot right here, shooting my best shot with confidence, knowing that it's going to go in, and if the goalie makes a great save, okay, swim back, play defense, and then we'll get another opportunity when it comes up.
Talking with Max Irving, just a couple more here for you, Max. Appreciate you taking the time on a busy week. We're in the midst of March Madness. Great story before the Paris game, so I gotta ask you about your dad. Well-known elite college basketball referee Michael Irving. There was a great story in the AP about his path and your path. What's it like when you get to see him officiate at the most elite level in the college game and see him perform his craft to the most expertise level?
Yeah, it's awesome. He had a game just the other day. He had the Elite Eight in the South region. I think it was Illinois versus Iowa, if I can remember correctly. But it's just so cool to be able to see him do his thing. Like he's been similar to me, putting in work. Just with his work ethic and commitment to his craft for the past 20 years. So that's something that's super motivating for me. And then it's awesome when I can just turn on the TV to watch a little bit of March Madness and see my dad out there on the court, and just have some of my friends text me like, "Oh, Max, is your dad like reffing this Illinois game?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's him. He's reffing it." And they're like, all right, we're gonna watch it, make sure he's doing the right thing out there. But no, he always does an excellent job, and yeah, he's been a real source of motivation for me. And so yeah, it's super cool. Hopefully, I'll be able, when I'm back stateside in the future, to just be going to some more of his games, March Madness and everything. So it's been awesome.
I know I'm due to run into him at a game. It's one of my favorite things, watching Team USA, get to see Max light it up in the pool and then break down some rules interpretation with Michael Irving after the game. So it's a 2-for-1. Last thing for you, LA 28, the name, water polo in Long Beach, your hometown. Again, some time to go before that, but just what will it be like to play the highest level of water polo in your own backyard?
Yeah, I think no matter where you are, when you have the opportunity to represent Team USA, like I kind of touched on, it's such an honor and such a privilege. Watching the men's and women's ice hockey team here in like Milano Cortino, I was able and fortunate enough to go to a few games, just seeing the pride and just seeing the enthusiasm of not only these athletes, but of the fans was just so rejuvenating and so refreshing for me. And just to be able to have the opportunity to represent Team USA at home, as it is, it is still 2 years down the road, but I'm even now preparing myself for what that's going to be like. And what, it motivates me on a daily basis to do everything in my power to that once it's time for those games to really officially be kicked off. And we're playing those group stage games and then hopefully games beyond that. I'll know, that I've done everything in my power to hopefully to be successful and to represent for our community, represent for Long Beach, represent for LA, and then ultimately represent for Team USA, because I think there's nothing better in sports than seeing a national team come together and just be so selfless, just be so humble, and just work towards the common goal of Team USA and medaling and just contributing to ultimately the Team USA legacy. So it'll be an honor. Obviously, whenever you can cap up for Team USA, but being able to cap up in my hometown with, some other guys who are also from Long Beach, Hunnis, Chase, and Ryder as well. It'll be a really, really special moment for us. So yeah, I think this World Cup will be a great precursor for that, this exhibition series and the games that we'll have coming up this summer, and then ultimately World Championships in 2027. All of these things are going to be major, major steps for us. So just really embracing what it means to be a Team USA athlete and to represent like the Stars and Stripes. I think it's something that's incredible and it's a real honor.
Good stuff, Max. And you're right, busy time ahead. A lot of Team USA exhibition matches at home this summer, so a chance to see Max and company in the pool, on the road to LA. But in the meantime, Good luck. Montenegro coming up on Friday, off to Greece next week for World Cup Division 1 action, and hopefully Team USA qualifying on through to Sydney, and then the rest of the season with Pro Reco. Thanks for the time, Max, and we'll see you soon.
Yes, sir, Greg. Thank you.